The stories behind Christian music's most well-known worship songs. That and more today as I welcome singer-songwriter Chris Tomlin on Making Sunday Happen. We'll also have a special appearance by pastor and author Craig Groeschel. It's episode 400. Let's do it.
This is the definitive podcast for helping you plan, create, and execute dynamic worship experiences at your church. Useful, practical content in the areas of production, worship, communications, first impressions, and more. This is Making Sunday Happen.
Hey friends, welcome to the podcast. Glad to have you here. This is episode number 400 of our show, and it has been quite a journey. We started this podcast in 2015. So we've been at it for about 8 years, bringing you weekly episodes, plus some bonus episodes along the way. And we also have some really exciting guests coming this year. Let me give you a sneak peek of a preview of who's coming up later this year on the podcast. I have Daniel Gorley from Worship Leader Probs and 5 Words Media. Also my friend Katie Allred, worship leaders Shane and Shane, lead pastor of Southeast Christian Church, Kyle Eidelman, author Clarence Schuler, pastor and author Craig Groeschel, and more. And speaking of Craig Groeschel, that interview is in the can, and I'd love to go ahead and share a little clip of our conversation. So a little special appearance by Craig Groeschel today. This is me and Craig talking about his brand new book, Winning the War of Your Mind for Teens. It's his latest book out now. We also kind of dive into Winning the War of Your Mind for Adults, his first book, and this is a teen version of that. So here is a sneak peek of my interview with him. Check this out. I want to go ahead and dive into this book. This is Winning the War in Your Mind for Teens. Now, this is a student version of the first book. Why did you release this one specifically for teens right now?
Well, first of all, when we wrote the book, Winning the War in Your Mind, it kind of exceeded our expectations, and which is exciting, and it's kind of sad because what it tells you is that there are so many people that are facing very real battles in their mind. And as we know, there's so many issues with mental health. And then 2 things happened. One is that, I'm raising 6 kids and seeing what they're going through. And so I've always had a heart for them and for students. And then there was kind of just parents all over saying, is there any way possible we can have a version of this for our teenagers? And so it just was kind of like the perfect collision of my heart for it and what seemed to be a need for it. And so I got together with some, good people that specialize in ministry, that age group, and rewrote the book in the direction toward teenagers. And it hasn't been out long. And the good news is we're hearing that a lot of teens are reading it. It's helpful. A lot of parents are reading it and reading it with their teens. And then a lot of youth groups are actually going through the book as well. So I'm encouraged because the need is great. And I think it's a resource that can be really helpful.
I had a great conversation with Craig about his brand new book. It's all about the battle of your mind. Again, his first book on the topic, Winning the War of Your Mind. And then this one is a teen version directly for teenagers and their parents. We also talked about being a ministry leader, how to have longevity in ministry, and more. The full episode, my full interview with Craig Groeschel will be released this fall, so you don't want to miss it. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to all of our platforms so that you never miss an episode, especially that one coming this fall. All right, well, let's get to it. Chris Tomlin is the most sung artist anywhere. He sold over 7 million albums. He's been awarded 23 GMA Dove Awards, a Grammy, 2 platinum albums. His songs like How Great Is Our God, Whom Shall I Fear, Good, Good Father, and others are anthems for a generation of worshipers. My family and I went to a concert recently with Chris as he came to town. My two young boys got to kind of go up on in the mosh pit area right in front of the stage for a few songs. We had a great time worshiping with Chris in South Carolina. His Stories of Worship tour is out now. I highly encourage you to check out his website, check out when the tour is, see if it's coming to your city or a city near you, and feel free to grab tickets and go to that concert. It will be well worth your time. All right, my interview with Chris Tomlin will be right up after this. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching and listening to our podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you would, so that you never miss an episode of the show. Just go to youtube.com/1230media, all spelled out, to find and subscribe now. Click the alarm bell to be notified of all future episodes. You can subscribe at youtube.com/1230media. That's all spelled out, youtube.com/1230media. Hey guys, today I welcome singer, songwriter, worship leader Chris Tomlin. Chris, is a long time coming, man. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me on the show, buddy. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so I was, we've crossed paths over the years. I was a guy, I have a background in radio. So I was a guy that would go backstage with a little recorder with like a sheet of liners and say, "Hey man, can you read this? Hey, this is Chris Tomlin," and you're listening to, "Hey, this is Chris Tomlin." I'm that guy. So I probably annoyed you over the years.
Oh, that's all good, man. Yeah, absolutely. I love it.
Well, man, thanks so much for hanging out. And I've also been ordered by my wife to let you know that we sung your songs at our wedding back in the day, 2009. So we had the congregation actually sing and worship. And so
Wow.
So thanks for being part of our journey, and thanks for the memories, man. I know that you've been a part of so many stories, so you've been a part of mine. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And tell your wife thank you as well.
Yeah.
That's very kind. I mean, that means a lot.
Yeah, man. So how does it feel with that? I know that you have been a part of so many stories. How does it feel? How do you stay humble when so many people can, say that they sung your songs every single week? How does that experience? What's that joy like for you?
Well, man, I tell you, it's the greatest privilege for me. It's what I'm most grateful for. When I think about the things that I've gotten to do, and I think about any accolades that come or awards or anything like that, nothing compares to that simple thing of that. When people say, "Man, we sing your songs in our church," or "This song has been used in my life in this way," that means more to me than hits and all the things. That's what it is for me. I've always wanted to try to write songs that would give people a voice to worship God, and so for them to connect that way, and for a song to kind of go past you as an artist. What I mean by that is it's not really attached to you anymore. I feel like I maybe have a couple of those that maybe they're just kind of in what people sing, and people who have no clue who I am, who never will know who I am. It's just songs that they sing to God and in their congregations. That means more to me than anything, since I was a kid, that's what I wanted to do, is help write songs that people could worship God, and seeing that happen. And it's just been amazing. And hearing stories of, again, when people say, "These are the songs that we sing in our church on Sundays," that's the best to me.
Yeah. Did that come from a background? You mentioned as a kid, did that come from wanting to maybe people to sing with you instead of more of a performance thing, or where'd that come from with you? I remember I grew up in a small little town in East Texas, and my dad taught me to play when I was a kid, and I had the opportunity to play in church a lot because I was one of the only kids that could play, and my youth group could play anything, so they would put me up there to play some songs. And I didn't really know what worship leader was. I'd never really heard that term. I didn't know what any of that worship music was. I just knew that I love when people would sing with me. At church, when I would sing a hymn or something, people would sing along. I enjoyed that more than just singing and performing for someone. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know that God was wiring me, that's how he was putting this desire in me for that. But
years later, when I look back on that, it's like, wow, God was putting that he was wiring me that way of like, man, it's about the people singing, it's about the congregation singing. So I started trying to write simple songs that would be people could sing and to God together. And so, yeah, even from a young kid, that's what was a desire inside of me.
So how did the songs, obviously they kind of go beyond you. The songs are kind of more of a star in a way than you are. Mm-hmm. And I have a background in radio where it used to be like the label would have a single and they would put it out and here you played this song. This is the one that we want you to push. But I feel like with you and with this kind of wave, people are finding the songs that connect with their congregation more than you almost. Do you find that to be true, that it's almost this like they're going after the song as opposed to the song being pushed on them? You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think that's the way the great songs of worship have happened. They've been very spirit led. And so they become in what I mean is God's spirit has been the marketer behind it. There's there's not a great marketing. There's not a marketing team in the world or a record label good enough in the world to put a song all over the world and say, hey, every church play this. There's something about a song when God's presence touches it, when there's a spirit on it, when there's a touch on it that has this special thing. Some people say anointing, or some people use different words, but the special touch of God that connects, and man, it starts going, I feel like it starts going across the region where you're from, and then it maybe trickles out further, then it might go around the world. And yeah. I've seen that a few times with songs of mine, and it's amazing how that happens. But I really, really believe that's God's spirit on something and saying, this is a moment. This is a thing to say at this moment. This is what we need to be saying as a church around the world. And it's interesting, as I've seen over the years, when songs like that happen, they'll be coming from all different places, but a lot of times they're saying a lot of the same things. And there's a theme there that God's weaving together. Yep. And so, yes, for me, those have always been the really powerful ones where it doesn't take a lot of like promotion, a man's promotion, but it's just God's wind, God's spirit behind it. And that's what you pray for. When I write songs, I pray, God, would your presence touch these songs? Your presence touch these songs in a way that people would sense your presence when they hear these songs, that it would fill up their car, it would fill up their headphones, it would fill up their churches with your presence when they sing these songs and hear these songs.
So our ministry is a media company. We make graphics and video content for like sermon series and stuff like that. And we get to see that in a unique way also, in that like a pastor might come to us and they might be doing an Armor of God series or a Jonah or whatever. And then this pastor from across the country or around the world is doing the same thing. So like we see this wave of like, okay, everybody's doing Armor of God at the same time and they don't know each other. They don't know, like, it's just so cool to see the Holy Spirit. They're like, that is the Holy Spirit, obviously. Yes. That like everybody is being moved to do this one thing. Do you feel that a lot with the songs?
Oh, 100%. And that's where the songs that, worship is response, to God for who he is, for what he's done, and for his goodness, his greatness, his glory. And, when you touch into that response, that people, when you put words and a melody into people's hearts that they want to say to God, that they don't know how to, that they're not thinking about music. Music's not their thing. But when you help them do that, and it comes from God's spirit, and you kind of feel in the flow of that. I mean, one example of that is off the new record, a song called "Holy Forever," and it's just one of those where it feels like this has something like just to touch on it. When I wrote with Ed Cash, "Whom Shall I Fear?" God of Angel Armies. I just sense, okay, this one feels a little bit different. When there's been certain songs that have come along, I'm like, okay, this feels a little bit different. How great is our God? This feels, okay, there's something in here a little bit different, like you're touching something in a special way. And then you're helping people respond and giving language to people to worship God. And so that's what I love. And that's, and when that happens, when people can this is what I want to say to God. But somehow you were able to help them do that. That's just the best.
At this point, do you know it? Like when you're writing it, this one's going to hit, or like I was going to ask you some social media questions, but like a friend of mine, Yancey, wanted me to ask you what song caught you by surprise, or what song did you really believe in that maybe didn't catch on the way you might have thought?
Yes, that's great. There's always been a few of those. Probably off. There's a song off the latest on my record, Holy Roar, that's called Impact. And I thought when that one came along, it started with two friends of mine, and then they played the song for me. I thought that song is going to be ginormous. And I don't think anybody who's listening to this podcast has ever heard it. And it just for some reason, just didn't have whatever other people didn't hear it. I've thought there's been many times where I thought this song is going to just be the one. I remember when we put out God's Great Dance Floor on the radio, and I thought, man, this is going to be the radio smash of radio smashes. And radio's like, no, we're not interested. And it was amazing. It was amazing live. It was amazing concert, but just didn't play. And still one of my most requested songs, still massive. But that's when you think, oh my gosh, this is going to fill up the radio as well. I mean, when you're always trying to look for those moments that, for me, that I have those things of worship, but also could play on the radio. And that's a delicate thing. That's an interesting thing and dynamic. We can be a whole other podcast, but those are a couple that come to mind that I was like, oh, but that didn't go quite like I planned. But the biggest surprise of my life is How Great Is Our God. I mean, I thought it was a special song, but never would I think that it was a song that would transcend so much culture and so much language barriers and so much generations. I feel like from, kids to grandparents sing this song. And that was, when you're writing it, you never think anything like that. Wow.
Yeah. I was going to ask you the reverse of that. So How Great Is Our God was definitely the one that caught you. I
was like, wow. And I think Amazing Grace, My Chains Are Gone, it was the most accidental song of my career because obviously I'm not looking to add something to the greatest hymn that's ever been written in the history of the world. I'm not going to be known as the punk who ruins that song. And that's not what I want to be known as. And some guys came to me about the movie they were making, Amazing Grace.
Yeah.
And they said, would you take the hymn and maybe add something to it? And I was like, there's no chance, man. People they're going to kill me. The church is going to, there's no way. And then I read about where the hymn came from and the story behind the hymn Amazing Grace, and was so moved by it, with the issue, the time period and everything that was happening around that hymn, that those words just fell out. My chains are gone. I've been set free. Those kind of words. And I sent that to the movie guys saying, hey, man, if you can use this for the movie, great. Never thinking I'd play it every day for every concert for the rest of my life. But that was another surprise as well.
Awesome. All right. I got some quick hit social media questions, and then I want to hit on your new tour and what that's going to be like. So let me hit you with these. All right. So do you ever feel, this comes from Jacob, are you ever worried that if you did one thing wrong that people would jump all over you? Or do you feel like you're walking on eggshells with the platform that you have?
Oh gosh, all the time. Yes. I mean, it's just, that's the nature of being up on the, whatever, a leader, especially in the faith space. It's a different responsibility than it is if I was a country singer.
Do you feel more you totally feel more expectation on yourself? Unbelievably
so. But one of the things that I did years ago is I got off all the social media, and I don't have it. I mean, my team posts for me, but I don't post. I don't know what's said. I don't care. It's just like that, because that's a really bad place, especially if you're trying to be if you're trying to lead somebody and you're trying to lead people and be a leader, then that's not a great place to just try to always get your cues from what everybody thinks and everybody's opinion of you and all the things you're doing wrong and all the things that you're not doing right. So I feel like a lot of times that's where I do feel that expectation, but that's a part of it. That is the script, but the scripture speaks to it too. It says it's a greater responsibility to be a leader. Yep. It says, and that is, so it's not something that is a oh, woe is me. This is a part of being a leader. But at the same time, I can't let just everybody's expectation rule when I feel like God is leading me somewhere, you know?
Do you feel disconnected with that, or do you feel freed up with that when not doing social media?
Free, very free. Yeah. So maybe I'm maybe I'm too disconnected sometimes because I'll have people say, have you seen what people have been saying about you? It's like, I have no idea.
No.
And so, so that's a good thing. Yeah, I feel it's a very freeing place, because here's the deal. And this is for worship leaders, especially. It's for musicians, it's pastors, anybody. But when you're trying to be in a creative place, when you're trying to create things, comparison is what kills creativity. It kills it. It destroys it. And so when you're always comparing yourself to others, what are others doing? Or I'm not doing as good, or I'm doing better, or you in social media, excuse me, social media is a way that always creates this comparison game of like, sorry, I got allergies all of a sudden. It always creates this comparison game. You're looking and you're like, and all you do is scroll and you're seeing all these other things. You're like, man, I should be doing that, or I should be doing that, or I'm not doing as good as they are. And that kills, that crushes. And so for me, it's a freeing place to just be, sorry, I can't breathe, to be, just focused right there on what I'm supposed to be doing and where I'm supposed to be, how I'm leading in my music, how I'm leading my family, how I'm leading all the things.
Yeah, it's good. All right, so this comes from Daryl. What are some best practices that you found to lead worship when you don't feel like leading worship?
Man, yeah, welcome to the human race, right?
Yeah.
Welcome to the thing. It just reminds me again of, for the worship leaders out there and for the crew and production and pastors, this is it's an amazing thing to be in front of people, and it's not. And so I think people look at us and think, wow, you must have a red phone to God, and you must have this connection that I don't have. And we all know that that's not true, that we're human beings and we're flesh and blood. And there's days where it's just like, well, man, this is tough. And I'm in a tough place. I'm in a hard place. And I think that to recognize that and to not shrink from it and not say, I must be doing something wrong, because if that's true, then the Bible, you just throw the Bible out, because it is full of that. I think about the Psalms, right? There's so much of the Psalms of David, which are the great songs of worship, right? Especially for a worship leader, that he is just pouring his heart out. Lord, I am desperate. Why am I so downcast? He says, why am I so in a tough place? And so if David was there, then we're surely going to be there as well. And I think it's leading in the midst of it. It's just saying, God, for this moment, you've put me in front of these people. You've given me that moment. For me, I'm always walking up there. There's times where I feel just like I struggle, but I'm always keeping in mind that this is a calling from God. And it's not just something I do just because I'm good at it or gifted at it, but I feel called to this. I felt called to this since I was young, and God calling me. And so I want to, the scripture says, live a life worthy of your calling. And that doesn't mean everything's going to be up and great, but it is like, okay, I'm called to this and I'm going to step into this, even if I'm not having the best day. And also recognizing that it helps you recognize in your congregation too, right? That, man, you may not be getting the feedback that you're wanting. Well, guess what? People may be having hard days out there as well in your congregation, and to remember that not everybody's coming from different places on any given Sunday, any given time of worship. That everybody's coming from different places, but we're all coming together to say, God, you're great, and remind ourselves. Worship is about remembering. It's about remembering who God is. It's every week we come together to remember who God is, how great He is, His grace on our life, His mercy on our life. And so even as we walk up there, not maybe coming with the best, we don't have the best stuff. I'm not coming with my best fastball today.
Yeah.
You're still walking up and going, I remember, God, that your grace. I remember I'm going to bring this to people. I'm remembering myself of your goodness and your mercy in my life.
How much do you share about that when you're on stage? Do you share, hey, I'm not bringing my fastball today? Or like, how much do you don't want to overshare and be creepy or too transparent, but also, do you let them know? How do you balance that?
Well, for me, I feel like my place is to lead people to worship, and so for me, my sharing has always been just some exhortation, encouraging people, like, this is what this is about, reminding people of goodness of God, greatness of God. And so I've not really had a lot of moments of like, man, I'm having the hardest time here. That's just not been my way. It's just been walking up and saying, not being fake, but just saying, hey, reminding people of Scripture and encouraging people. This is what we've come to do today. And what I have found is that when you lift up God as great as He is, as high, as holy, and you put Him at the center, and you take your focus off yourself and you focus onto Him, and put people's focus onto God, all those things start shifting in your heart. And all those things start shifting, all the things that you're going through, all the things your congregation people are going through. It's amazing how it shifts when we put the focus together collectively on God's greatness and His goodness. It happens time after time for me.
Good. All right, rapid fire, just some quick hits for you. All right, who was your biggest musical inspiration growing up?
Stephen Groeschel.
Oh, dive in. Great adventure, baby.
Yeah.
Who have you met in your career that you have fanboyed over? Same answer?
That was really cool, that first one. But I went to, early on, when I was very first starting, I was doing a weekend youth conference, and I was in a hotel in Minneapolis, and I went to the gym, and there was only one other person in the gym, and it was John Denver. And I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, like, for me, just growing up with country roads and all the things, I was like, that is the dude. And I didn't say a word. I just stood there, and I was like, this is one of my heroes. And I wish I would have, because he didn't live much longer after that. But that was a cool moment.
Awesome. All right. What is one thing a worship leader could do this Sunday on stage that would help people connect with God in a deeper way?
My buddy Louis Giglio says it the best: to lead from acceptance, not for acceptance. If you can get that right, you're going to be a better leader.
Good. Is there one song that you've written or a song in your catalog that's the most cringeworthy as you look back? What's the song that you want us to burn all the copies of?
Oh my goodness. There's some cringe. You take the noise we make. I would say that's my most cringeworthy. There was a record called that.
I remember that album. So I used to take a youth, and I was a youth group at Student Life way back in the day.
Yeah,
it was like, that was the Noise We Make era right there.
Listen to the song. That song is like, I listen to it now, going, oh my gosh, what was I thinking?
All right. Last one. What is your most embarrassing on-stage moment or biggest production fumble?
Man, thankfully, I have not had a lot of embarrassing things on stage. Nothing huge comes to mind.
Wow. Any cable mess up? Mic turned off? Somebody fall off the stage?
I've definitely taken some tumbles, tripped, fallen, all those kind of things. I have had so many, problems with, you're in panic mode because you're embarrassed, because your in-ear system is going crazy, and no one knows that, and you can't explain it to people that, hey, I know this sounds really bad right now, but the reason it sounds bad is I can't hear a thing. I've got like radio tower in my ear. Somebody's calling in planes to land while I am trying to sing a song. All the things, I've had all that. And so for me, it's been personally embarrassing. For everybody else, everybody's like, oh, that was a great night. I'm like, really? That was the hardest thing I've ever been through in my life.
Yeah. Good. All right. Well, man, as I leave you, I'm so excited about this new tour. It's called Stories of Worship. You're sharing like the origins. You're sharing the stories behind the songs, right?
Yes. I've wanted to do this tour for a long time. And not this tour, but this kind of night where I just thought, man, it would be amazing. My wife always says, when we leave your concerts, no one really knows who you are. You get up there and lead these great songs, these big songs, but personally, no one kind of knows who you are. It'd be
That's great, man.
share it.
I think that's a huge compliment to you. That like, it's not a fame thing, or it's not the songs are the stars and the worship is the stars.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No. So I just thought, man, it'd be really cool just to, at some point, to do a tour where I just share a little bit more and share a bit of where these songs come from and the stories. And I have found that when I've done that, and I've done like small gatherings, that it has been like exponential, the power of the songs, of what they mean to people. And when people hear some of the stories behind them, or people come with their own stories of these songs. So I think people will be very encouraged this night.
Can you give us a taste of one of the stories that you share?
Yeah. I won't share the song, but I will say that I ran into a pastor from Syria, which says enough right there to me. And it was one of the guys that, as I talked to him, I thought, if you're a Christian, I must not be one, because you're in a different different level. Just it's life and death every day. Jesus is all families Islam. He lives in a pure Islam village in a pure Islam country. And he said, Jesus started coming to me in dreams, and just started dreams. And every night I'd have dreams about Jesus saying, follow me. And he said, I started following Jesus, and I started sharing the gospel, and I've been sharing the gospel in this village in Syria with people. And I've been threatened. I've been, my brothers, the stories he was telling me were miracle after miracle after miracle of them saying on this Friday, we're going to take you to the court. We're going to end your life, and we're going to take you to court square, right in the courtyard of the village, and end your life if you keep talking about Jesus, all these things. And he said things would happen, and those people would go away. Those people would die. Those people would, and he said, and I would just I'm just keep going. I'm just meeting this guy going. And my friend, I was talking with another friend, and he said, there was three of us there, and he said, have you ever heard of Christian music? And the pastor said, no, I have no idea what that is. And my friend just winked at me, and the guy went on telling more miracle stories, and then he stopped, and he goes, actually, there's one song. Actually, I've heard of one song. I know one song. And he started telling me the lyrics, and I won't tell you because you have to wait to the concert. But I started bawling my eyes out, and I was thinking, how do I write a song in my apartment, and it makes its way to a pastor in Syria? And he said, every morning I get up and I think this could be my last day on earth. But he goes, I play this song and I sing this song and I walk out. And he said, you want to hear it in Arabic? And I was like, okay. And he grabs his phone. He had one song on his phone, and it was that song. And he starts playing it in Arabic. And I was like, how, Lord, how do you do this? And he just gives me this big old hug, and I was thinking, man, what a moment. And I think it's a reminder of people out there that this is life and death every day. And, for people, and just how the lifeline of a song of worship can be, for myself and for others that I never knew was reaching into a little village in Syria in Arabic.
Well, man, I know that you hear stories like that, and then I'm probably the opposite is true. Maybe people come up to you and blow smoke or puff you up. How do you sit back and think, God, how in the world are you using a dude like me? Like how did this happen? What are those thoughts in your mind?
Yeah, I absolutely. I mean, I come from there's nobody in music in my family. There's nobody in ministry. I come from a very small little town, pretty humble beginnings. I never dreamed it. God just put these songs on my heart and opened up doors. I'd share that. I share that story share the story of how this all happened for me musically. That was nothing I ever planned. I wasn't trying to do it. And God just kept opening these doors and making it very, very apparent that this is where he's leading me, even though I was like, I don't even know how to do this. And so, I always look back and think, man, this is God's doing. And I just want to be faithful to that in every way I can.
That's incredible, man. Well, thank you so much for the time. You guys can get tickets for the Stories of Worship tour in a city near you. You can go to christomlin.com for tour dates and to purchase tickets. Chris, grateful for the time, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, buddy. Great to talk to you.
All right, bud. Later. Hey guys, let me give you a quick way to connect with your volunteers outside of Sunday to help you build a dynamic volunteer culture at your church. This is going to sound super simple. I want you to text them. In today's world, texting has become a quick and easy way to stay connected. Send your volunteers a message of encouragement or simply let them know that you're looking forward to serving with them on Sunday. So here are some simple, encouraging, quick text ideas. You can say, praying for you this week as you're in school or work or home. You can also say, your hard work and dedication to serving our church community is deeply appreciated and makes a huge difference. You could say, you are an essential part of our church family. We're so grateful for your willingness to serve. Or you could say, thank you for your selfless service and for putting the needs of others before your own. You could say, your contributions as a volunteer are invaluable and make our church a better place. And lastly, your time and effort are greatly appreciated, and we are blessed to have you as part of our team. So as a leader, it is important for you to build relationships with your volunteers, especially outside of Sunday. Not only will this create a sense of community and belonging within your church, it will also help your volunteers feel valued and feel appreciated. So making Sunday happen involves more than volunteers, more than people just pushing buttons or making the right fader move. Our most important job, our secret sauce, is pastoring our people. Hey guys, hanging out with Jason Noble, host of the Kidmin Tribe podcast. This is a great podcast for kids ministry leaders and volunteers. Jason, tell me some of the guests that you've gotten to interview over the year that this podcast has been released.
Yeah, it's been incredible just to see just the voices that we've been able to speak to. We've talked to people like Brian Dollar, Jim Weidman, Yancey, Dave and Jess Ray, Karen Kingsbury, Matt Markins, Ryan Frank, Jason Hauser, across the board. I mean, Miss Patty K. I mean, we've had some.
Don't forget Miss Patty K.
You cannot forget Miss Patty K. And even people that you wouldn't necessarily think of as kids ministry leaders, but people that are in the industry of entertainment for kids. It's been incredible just to think about who we're able to talk to. And I promise you there's some great tools and some great training and encouragement in the podcast. Go check it out today at kidmintribe.com, where all of the archives are. You can also find out every other week we have a new podcast that launches on there and a great blog. So we'll see you there. Thanks so much, and God bless you.
The show notes for this episode are available now at makingsundayhappen.com.
Hey guys, what a privilege it was to have Chris on the show today. I hope you enjoyed today's milestone episode. Next week on the show, I welcome Greg Shields from In-Ears Audio and Top Shelf Music. Greg is the lead singer of a band called Cashed Out. And I'll be talking with Greg about in-ear monitors. From a beginner level to intermediate, I'll ask him how to choose the right in-ear monitors for you and your worship team, and more. That's next week on the podcast. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you would, so that you never, ever miss an episode. We'll go out there and create some incredible worship experiences at your church this weekend. I'll catch you next week.
Making Sunday Happen is a production of the ministry of 1230 Media. For show notes, archive episodes, and more free resources for your church, visit makingsundayhappen.com.